Right. Hi, everybody. I am Elaine Hart. I am an OBGYN. I practice at Loma Linda University here in Southern California. And I've been OBGYN for about 20 years. I've been a member of the Academy of Breastfeeding Medicine probably since 2009. Recently applied and was accepted for fellowship. And recently I graduated from the ABM Leadership Academy, which was a wonderful opportunity, a wonderful networking opportunity. I learned so much about leadership and have become involved in helping with the leadership. And I volunteered to give this didactics because I want to help people in showcasing their research projects or their fellowship, or not fellowship, their leadership projects. So that's why I'm doing this. And I want this to be a bit interactive. So I love questions. If you have questions, I only put in 39 slides. So I left some time for questions, but I want to be a resource for people. So that's why I'm doing this. So let me get started here. All right, so no disclosures. My objectives for you today are to understand the purpose of an effective poster, learn how to create a basic poster, but then learn some tips to make your poster amazing and engaging. And then talk a little bit about timelines and how to get your, the nitty gritty of how to get your poster printed. And then also talk about how to ideally present your poster and showcase your research that you've been doing. All right, so projects that a poster can showcase are your research project, if you have some sort of research, a QI project, any kind of educational intervention, or even a case report, or other options as well. So poster narrative and key messages, you want to kind of have a good idea about what you are presenting before you start designing your poster. Know the purpose of your poster. What is the key message that you want to get across to your audience? It's really important to know that so you can, keep that at the forefront of your mind when you are designing your poster. And then identify what the main findings are of your research or your QI project. And then what conclusions? What do you want the audience to take away from what you have presented in your poster? So what's the advantage of a poster? It allows the audience to view the material at a reader-selected rate, and it enables greater comprehension and retention. And it's really important because usually posters are at a conference and everybody's been sitting at their, sitting in the audience for hours and hours, and now they have a chance to go look at posters. So you really want to be engaging and have a poster that really draws the audience in. So it's important to keep all of that in mind when you're designing your poster. Okay, so typical poster sizes. The average is probably 3 by 4 feet, but that's considered a medium-sized poster. 42 by 56 inches is considered a large poster. Sometimes I've only been asked to do this once, but I actually presented one of my posters at our alumni meeting on a computer screen. And that was actually a little bit easier, but it's not very good because it's small. So I like the printed posters a lot better. I like that opportunity to present and stand by my poster. All right, so throughout this, I am going to show you some of the posters that I have done, and I'm going to be critical of my posters because as I wrote this talk, I started preparing for this a few months ago, back in October, when I did like a little cheat sheet on how to write a poster, but then I did a lot more work on it as I was preparing for this. I actually learned a lot. I'm going to be a better poster maker, creator after presenting all of this to you. And you can always learn new things. That's one thing I've learned in my life. You can always learn and perfect your skills. So timeline is really important. Give yourself enough time. It's like anything, giving a talk, give yourself enough time so that you can proof it and perfect it and do all of that. Really about 1 to 3 weeks, depending on your experience. If it's the first poster that you're making, it's going to take you longer. But even if you've done 20 posters, which I probably have done, it still takes time to perfect it. You can actually start writing your introduction and your methods while you're continuing to collect data. Usually if it's a research project, you've already applied to the research board and gotten approved by them. So you already have your methods, you have your abstract, you have all of that. So but you can start writing all of that while you're getting your data analyzed. All right. So this is one of my examples. This is one of my more recent ones. It probably needs some work. My student who presented this at the Western Medical Society meeting, and she did really well. She said they loved the pink color on it. So color is really important, although I usually prefer several colors on a poster. But it's pretty wordy. I didn't do a word count on this one, but we're going to talk about that. I have a slide on word count. And I would say probably the one thing that I am the most guilty of is too wordy. That's just always my thing. I'm trying to put a lot of information in, but I want you to take away from this meeting, less is better. That's probably the big take-home message. Less is better. And we're going to talk more about that. But anyway, she did well with this, but there are lots of things that could be critiqued about this. And we are going to do that a little bit later on. And I'm going to ask for some participation with that. All right, so explore ideas. Look at other posters. That'll give you inspiration about, anytime I go to a conference, I'm looking at a bunch of posters. I'm taking pictures of them. I'm talking to the people. I'm learning constantly about what makes a good poster, what makes a great project. Consider using a poster template. That is very, very helpful. Check with your institution for a template with specific color schemes and logo. And I've got one of those right here. This is ours for Loma Linda. And this is what I basically have used for every poster that I have ever done. It's got the logo. You can put your picture up here. It's got everything. It outlines it for you. But I've had this for many years, and there are so many things online that you can use for poster templates. So there's a lot of resources out there to help you make an amazing poster. So I've always used PowerPoint, the Microsoft PowerPoint for my posters, but there's other things that you can use here. What you're doing with this is you're designing an entire poster on a single slide. And there's a lot of design templates, tools, colors, fonts, and we're all pretty familiar with Microsoft. So well, maybe not everybody is. Some people are probably more familiar with Mac, and Mac has options too. It's easy to work with. It's free. If you're a Mac user, you're going to want to use that. And maybe you've already used that. I've never used Google Slides. I'm kind of one of those tried and true people. Whatever works for me, I just keep doing it. But Google Slides, it's free too, popular software for creating presentations and posters. There's Adobe Illustrator. This is apparently quite expensive. It's a vector-based software. It does create really high-quality graphics and images. And then here's two other options that I found, something called LaTeX and Inkscape. I have not ever used those or anything like that. But I just wanted to provide other options. You don't have to use Microsoft PowerPoint. There are a lot of options out there. All right, so you can do a horizontal poster or you can do a vertical poster. I have always done horizontal posters. I think this looks really cumbersome to me, and I don't know that I've really seen too many vertical posters at meetings, but maybe I've just really not thought about it. But I just included these so you could see these. This company, Megaprint, does have templates. These are templates right here, and they had a lot of different size templates and things like that that you could use. All right, concepts to really keep in mind when you are designing your poster. And I have highlighted throughout this talk things that I think are really, really important. The audience is tired. I didn't write that down, but they're tired from sitting and listening to speakers. So they're tired and they will just spend minutes, not hours, reading your poster. Really, you want to be able to get your message across to them with your poster in a couple minutes, not even 5 minutes. So you got to be well organized with your design in your poster. Each section, you want to clearly follow the previous section, and you have to decide what direction you want your information to flow, left to right, then down, or top to bottom, then to the right. I've pretty much always made mine top to bottom, then to the right. But you don't want your reader to jump around. You want to be easy on their eyes. You can also use numbers or arrows to indicate the flow where you want them to look next. You can be creative with eye-catching visuals to draw readers' eyes through sections logically. Now I've got lots of pictures in here that I'm going to be showing you to give you lots of good ideas. All right, so you want to use the scientific MRAD organization with the introduction, the methods, results, and discussion. You want your poster to be professional and well organized, but there is some leeway in that, and we're going to go over that. So your intro is a few brief sentences of background info and clear research question or your hypothesis. And then your methods, you want to explain your methodology with a list or a flow chart, preferably not a big paragraph. Results, you want to present your key findings with illustrations, tables, figures, graphs. You want to add legends and titles and include a summary statement of your findings. And then your discussion, you're going to interpret and discuss implications of your findings. Now, there are other things that you can add too. So you can add your key findings or takeaway, which is highlighting your core message in a very catchy way. And then, of course, continue to include your intro, methods, results, and discussion. You can add in a conclusion, or you can combine discussion and conclusion, but you want to summarize your research and the significance of it, and maybe what the future research in this area may be. Include your citations and your acknowledgments. Reference important materials, your institution affiliation, and you can even thank individuals if you want. And this can be smaller than the text. And then you might want to even include a prompt to find out more. Provide an option to dive further into your research with a resource link or even a QR code, or additional materials are good ways to do this. All right, so this is another one of my posters that I wanted to show you here. And a lot of these are my older posters. Let me just move this down so I can see this. So this is showing you the poster layout, okay? And you want optimally for it to be consistent and clean, lots of white space incorporated throughout the design. So this one does have that. There's a lot of white space in between all these graphs and charts and things. You want to avoid a cramped appearing poster and all available space being filled with info. You don't want info hidden in dense paragraphs, which it is on this one. This is an older one of my posters. There's way too many words on this, okay? More bullet points would definitely be better. And you don't want important information to be too small. You want it to be read from several feet away, like 6 to 8 feet away. So that's important. You know, definitely if I was doing this poster today, I would do many different things on that. But I got to show you examples of what to do and what not to do. All right. Get my slides to advance here. All right, putting your poster together, first and foremost, look at your conference guidelines for the correct size and orientation. It would not be good to show up at the conference with the poster and it's the wrong size. So make sure they always will provide that information, what they want and what size and all of that, when to bring it and everything. And then choose your page size, create your content blocks, and then insert your text where appropriate. Begin with the main sections of the poster, the intro, the results, the discussion. Then you can add your graphs, your charts, your tables, your images. Use headings and subheadings to break up the content and make it more visually appealing. And you really can do a lot with that too, and a lot with color to make it visually appealing. All right, so here's another one of my posters. And this one, I wanted to highlight some things. This is about the title. All right, so the title can be in all caps for impact. Didn't do that here. Keep it 5 to 15 words. 8 words or less is ideal. All right, short, plain language. Goal is to generate interest quickly. You don't want it to be too wordy. And it's ideal to have a hook to attract passing viewers. So, like I said, I'm going to critique many of these old posters that I have made over the last 15 years, I probably, maybe longer than that. So this one, and if you already have a research project, a lot of times my projects have really long names, okay? And this one did. Assessing the motivation to exclusively breastfeed. Can a questionnaire given to prima gravidas in the 3rd trimester predict exclusive breastfeeding at 6 weeks? So at the bottom here on the left side, I've got, this is what it, this is the way it shows, okay? That's not very good. A better way to do it is what I've got on the right side here, which gives is better. I didn't take my title away. The title is still there, but in red, I put assessing the motivation to exclusively breastfeed to bring the audience in. And then in smaller font and in a different color, I put the rest of it on there. So I think that's a good way to deal with something like that. If you already have a research project and you already have a design for it, you want to include what you have. Let me get to the next slide. All right, so headings. All right, you want these to be consistent throughout, larger than the text, not more than 3 words, and you can highlight it and bold it. This is a template that you can use. You can get this off online. Here's where you can get it. But they did a really nice job here. Look at these headings. They are bolded. They're in blue. They're just like one word. These are really nice. It breaks up the poster. We've got nice columns here. This is a landscape type of poster. This is really good. So it's important to do that. And, as I've been looking at my old posters, a lot of times I didn't highlight the, myself and my students. I always have engage the students in helping make the poster. All right, next, text. Text is probably the most important thing. And like I said before, this is where I fall short and need a lot of work. So I included another poster of mine that is way, way, way too wordy. I did not do a word count on this one, but it's probably 1,000 words, which is definitely too many. Optimal, you want this to be, your text to be condensed and concise to help convey the very most important facts, the key points of your project. That will help enhance scanning and reading of this for these tired people but they want to see your poster. You don't need to include every detail. And that's what I, have done way too much of, is including every detail. You want to give them the key points. That's what's really important. Emphasis on the headings. So here we go. Here's our headings right here. These should be bolded. That would help a lot. And then, either key points. Don't even need to include the abstract, but just key points would be much, much better. Bullet points and numbering are good. Try to keep your paragraphs to 1 to 2 sentences. You can use italics instead of underlying and make your text boxes the same width, which we did do that on this one. But you want to avoid organizing the content into long paragraphs, no headings, and headings that don't stand out. So we have the headings, but they don't stand out. They could stand out better, okay? And way too many long paragraphs. All right, now this one is talking about fonts. So I put the liberty to put some really bizarre fonts on here. And, choosing the ideal font. Don't use fancy fonts. Best to use sans serif fonts. They're easiest to read. But you can use a variety of different font sizes and types to visually differentiate between title, body text, headings, and highlights. That's okay to do. But just keep in mind, don't use some really bizarre font like I did to make my point here. 2 to 3 different fonts is okay, but don't use more than that. And make sure your font is readable from a distance. Your font is going to attract attention and you want it to be visually appealing. You want it to be easy to read, to invite your audience to learn more about your project. And you want it to communicate your message really quickly. All right, word count. All right, so ideal 300 to 800 words. The less is better. Okay, more than 1,000 words, not good. Okay, so I want somebody, audience participation, somebody to take a guess. How many words are on this poster? I like this poster because I love the colors on this one. When my students designed it, it was really, the colors were so boring. I said, you got to put some color on that thing. And they did, but I should have also been saying, we got to cut the words down. So how many, somebody just take it, you can speak out loud. Don't put it in the chat, just shout it out. How many words do you think are on here? Nobody's going to volunteer?
1,100. Tara said 1,000 words.
Okay, somebody said 1,100. Who said 1,100?
Kara.
Kara. Okay, good. It's 1,130. Okay, I was pretty horrified when I did that. And I did that when I was reading something online about word count. So yes, way too many. You don't have to put everything on your poster, okay? All right, now here's a really good example of color scheme. And I got this online. And looks like okay. I do have the credits on this, but it looks like I didn't put it right on here. But it's on the back, it's on my references. Okay, so this poster won some major award at the conference that it was presented at. It's a scientific poster, but they take a lot of liberty in different things that they did. They use this cartoon thing here. But it's in regards to color scheme, it's visually appealing, it's easy to read. You can do, if you want, and some of my posters are like this, one color plus black for best contrast. Warm colors, oranges, offer better visibility than cool colors such as blue. You can use like 4 to 5 colors if you want, but you want to have a nice, good color palette that kind of comes together and is visually appealing to facilitate communicating the message that you're trying to get across. You want high contrast colors to make important information stand out and help anybody who is maybe visually impaired. You can use a free color generator such as Material Palette, and Google, well, not Google, but PowerPoint does this too. We'll give you some color schemes, okay? If you're featuring a specific image, consider using this for inspiration for your color scheme. So this person did that. This is her image, this is her picture that she's included. And she's got that color scheme in everything that she has down here, including her graphics. So this is really, really good. A good way to do it, a good, way to consider putting this together. Here's another one that shows graphics, and your graphics should enhance the efficiency of the reader of reading it, the effectiveness of your poster, the impact that it makes. And it's great if you can incorporate the color scheme into your graphics. So this one really does an excellent job of that. right here are your graphics, okay? And they've incorporated the color scheme. So this one really comes together very, very nicely. All right, lists can be used too. I tried to find like a poster that had lists in it. None of mine do, unfortunately. And I couldn't really find a good one to demonstrate this. I don't have a picture for you, but lists are good. They convey information quickly, effectively, easy to read. You want to write the list in phrase form rather than complete sentences. Much, much easier to read. All right, here's another one of my posters, and this is on acknowledgements, author's name, and institution affiliations. And this is a pretty good poster. I'm really proud of this one, this research, because this one is published in the Breastfeeding Medicine Journal last fall. My student, Marie Estefanis, did an oral presentation, not this past year, but the year before, on our research, on our baby research, breastfeeding and antenatal breast milk expression randomized control trial. And we're working on baby two now, where we're comparing antenatal breast milk expression pumped versus hand expression. So hopefully I'll be presenting that soon. But optimal for your acknowledgements, you want them clearly displayed on the poster. So all of that is here. We've got our university logo up there. Avoid no information on the author or the institution, or unclear, so that the reader doesn't know where to go to find more information. So it's really important to have that. There are some things that could be improved on this poster too, like I would highlight these headings. I think that would be really better, and maybe utilize some more colors in here too to make it more interesting. And of course, less words, right? All right, now I use this one with the crab on it again because I love this one. Nothing is absolute. You can be creative with your posters, okay? Keep in mind when you write up your submission for publication, you got to be very scientific with that. But the purpose of a poster is to generate interest, to attract your audience. So you can be a lot more creative than I've been in most of the posters that I have created. You don't want to be outlandish. You want to be reasonable. But I think that these ones that I'm showing you are very reasonable. Be flexible, be creative. This can enhance your effectiveness of your poster. You can combine sections. And then this I'm illustrating here, consider more descriptive headings. So this person put crustacean domination, crab collection, a look at some data. There's your graphics, but she puts it, or he puts it, it's a she, a look at some data. What's next? So this is fine to do. And so you can be creative with that. Tell your story through these figures or illustrations rather than with just text. You could even add some hidden informational panels with paper flaps to be more interactive, to engage that audience, okay? You could attach objects to add dimension to your poster. And then there are some resources that I put on here to help you create visuals for your poster. There's something called BioRender and the Noun Project. So take a look at those and see if that might help you as well. All right, adding a picture. Now, some of the crab one and the one with the cartoon, those had really nice pictures on there. And here's another one that has a very nice picture on it, and it draws the audience in, but it's still a scientific poster. So if you're going to use a picture, use high quality, high resolution images, 300 DPI or greater. Double check to make sure that you've uploaded high quality images for your poster. You don't want the image to be blurry or pixelated at 100% zoom. So you have to do some practice. Again, that's that 1 to 3 weeks to really make sure that your poster is amazing. All right, data analysis. I just kind of threw this in there, with all these research projects that I do. I never pay for any research consulting. I just use our research consulting group, and it's paid for by the university as long as the project is done by a student or a resident. If it was just me doing it by myself, it wouldn't be paid for. But, whenever I do research or QI projects or whatever, I always want to engage the students and the residents to participate because it's a great opportunity for them. And I have them do a lot of the work on all of this so they can learn. And then they can pay that forward with students and residents that they work with in the future. But when you're working with research consulting groups, what I have found with experience is you got to be really clear on what you want analyzed and what you're focusing on, because they don't know that and they can't read your mind. So you got to really be very clear with what you're trying to find out with your research. All right, final tips about making an amazing poster, except for a few words that you want to highlight. Make sure that all of your text is black or dark color to create better contrast, and make sure that it's very easy to read. And don't use a blown up photo as a background for your poster. I was going to try to find one of these and I wasn't able to find one just to see what that would look like. I don't know that I've ever seen a poster like that, but I may have. But they definitely recommend not doing that. Use more white space, or basically clear space on what other main color that you have around your graphics, more than you think you need around the text boxes and figures. Because if it's all just crammed together, it's very tedious for the reader to read. Before finalizing your poster, make sure you review it carefully for accuracy, for completeness, for visual appeal, and get feedback. Feedback is so important. Print it out and have a colleague look at it and review it, or in this day and age, send it via, usually I'm doing the feedback for my students when they're making the posters, or my residents online. But have them look at it and critique it. And then it's also really a good idea to have somebody who has no or limited understanding of the research that you're doing, just to look at it for wording and design, not for the content of the message, but for the wording and design. Is it easy to read? That sort of thing. Easy, does it flow nicely? All right, now here's some information for you. We're going to critique this poster here. What makes this poster great? So this is a really good poster. And I found there's only really one thing wrong with it, and that's the wording. It looks like some of my wording posters. But it's got this eye-catching 3D effect with this picture, okay? Where the milk, it's almost jumping out at you, the milk around this cheese. Different parts of the title are bold or in a different color. Okay, so you can see that here. This is the main point they want to get across. And so that's bigger and in a different color, bovine cheese making milk. And here's the color scheme. This is a really nice earthy color scheme that allows the accent colors to pop out. They've got numbered headings with colors that stand out. Look at these. I really like these. These are excellent. They've got numbers so you can easily follow where you're supposed to go. And again, this is a landscape design. There's 4 columns. It's very easy to read. And then the graphs and the tables incorporate this really nice color scheme. So it all really flows together very nicely. Now, because they have a lot of words on here, they have indented the text into paragraphs. So that helps a little bit, but still less words would make this a much better poster. All right, so this one is probably one of my worst posters a long time ago, but I want you guys to critique it and just feel free to give me some feedback on this. I already know what's wrong with it, but I want you to learn something. I want to see what you've learned. What could we do differently on this poster?
Wordy.
Wording?
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, this one probably has more than 1,130 words on it. I'm sure it does. So the wording is ridiculous. This would be extremely tedious to look at. What else? What else do you see that we could fix?
The color, maybe it's I don't know, maybe some more contrast in the color and not all purple.
Yeah, some contrast in the color. The color scheme doesn't really go together, does it? We've got purple, yeah, and then some blue and some teal, and then the graphs don't match really the color scheme either, with the sort of somewhat color scheme that's going on here. So that could make it better. What else?
I think it's beautiful, but maybe bullet points.
Yes, bullet points. Thank you. You're very sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, bullet points would be extremely helpful here. And yeah, that would help a lot. Because I mean, you're not going to hardly get the key points at all with all of this gobbledygook. How about the title? What do you think about the title? It fits the 5 to 15, I think. 1, 2, 3, we won't count the width. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that's probably okay. The title's not too bad. And then we have the people listed. We've got the university and the logo. So that's okay. What do you think about the headings?
Kind of driving me crazy that they're not the same size.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, this one is just not good. Now, I don't know if this was the final poster or not. This is from a while ago. But when I look at this, I don't know why these words are there's like missing, I don't know, like a weird space in here. So, that's not good. And you're right, the titles are not the same size and they should be the same size. So this one is my worst poster of all my posters I could find, but I wanted to share it with you just to show you, we can all learn from our mistakes, right? And we can go forward and do a better job. But yeah, so color scheme, headings, I think the title's okay. The graphics could be better. A lot of my research is on breastfeeding. This one isn't. My main topics are breastfeeding. That's number one. And trying to help patients improve the success of breastfeeding. I also do research on insulin resistance and on education because I run the clerkship for OBGYN. So those are my three areas. And with all these breastfeeding, wouldn't a nice breastfeeding picture be a great picture to include in some of these posters? Definitely the next poster I make is going to have a nice picture to really draw the audience in. So yeah, so I just wanted to share that with you so you guys could get a chance to do that too, to look at that and critique that. Okay, so printing the posters, check with your university because you probably can get that printed for free. Either your department will pay for it, maybe the alumni association, maybe the research program, whatever. The most recent one that we just had at the Western Medical Society, our department is going to pay for that. The student did not have to do anything out of pocket for that. The department will pay for it. You can print it at a local print shop for a fee, of course, but I'm all about having the university support our research projects. Just make sure your image is 300 DPI or greater for a great high quality print. And again, you got to allow time for this. Allow yourself at least a week or greater for a buffer, just in case something goes wrong. Print a sample on paper to visually check everything. And again, have people look at it for feedback. And then always, always, always have a digital copy on a thumb drive in case you're carrying that poster to a meeting and it gets lost, you leave it on the airplane or whatever. So always have a digital copy because you can get that reprinted at wherever, whatever city that you're in. So these are just helpful tips. These things do happen. Resources, have a colleague review your poster. I would be happy to review anybody's poster that you guys are making. I would be happy to consult with you, and if you would like, and I put my email on there too. And I'm happy to share these slides too, if that would be helpful to anybody. When you're presenting your poster, this is your opportunity to share your enthusiasm for your research or your QI or your case report, whatever you did. Stand by your poster, engage with your audience. This gives you an opportunity to share your project, exchange ideas with other like-minded people, provide more details, all those words that we're going to take out of these posters. This is when you can elaborate and tell more and answer questions. It also allows wonderful opportunities for networking. I've met lots of great people standing in front of posters. And then provide handouts if you want. You don't have to, but you can provide handouts. So what are the options for handouts? You can make a smaller version of your poster. I think that's a pretty easy way to go. Or you can, and that would probably be my my way of doing it. Or you can summarize your poster, the key points of your presentation, keep it to one page. The site that I got this from, which I put on here too for your reference, they said 2 to 4 pages, no way, 1 page. Nobody wants a bunch of pages. And then you can include information in your sample. Leave room for notes though, and they do have that on here where people can write down things if they want. I think I mentioned this before. A lot of times when I'm at conferences, I just take pictures of the poster. If they have a sample or some handout, I take that and I don't take the picture. But I have tons of pictures on my phone of posters from different places that I have, different conferences that I have gone to. It just really generates a lot of ideas. These are my references that I use for this. And then I'd love to take questions, answer questions, go back over slides if you want, whatever you want. I know we have a little bit of time. I wanted to make sure I left some time for questions though. Don't be shy. I love questions. I always tell my students that. I love questions.
I have a question.
Mariana, good.
Yeah. Usually, I understand that any poster is to share a research or, well, with all this methodology, like introduction and abstract and everything. What happens if it doesn't have all that methodology? It's just, for example, a review of the literature, for example, or a clinical case. The way to present it is the same, or is not usually presented in I don't know, type of conferences where you present posters with these steps, or yeah.
Yeah, so it would be a little bit different. There's going to still be that introduction and the methods of what you did, like if you're doing a case report, reviewing, you reviewed the literature to see if there was any other cases like this. And then you reviewed the chart and what happened with the patient and, what you learned from, what your conclusions, your discussion of the case, and then your conclusions and the take-home message. I've written 2 case reports that are published and 2 that I'm working on right now. I've never made a poster on a case report, but certainly you could do that. And usually when I'm writing a case report, it's when it's something unusual that I've never seen before. One of mine, I had this lady that had breast tissue in the vulva. And this is several years ago, a medical student came to me when I was on call. Dr. Hart, this lady has all these bumps all over the vulva. And then I went and investigated. It was breast tissue. And I'd never seen that before, even though I've done this for years and years and years. Yeah, so that needed a case report. And I wrote that and we got that published because other people need to know about that too. And yeah, and I could have made a poster out of that. I just never really thought of doing that. But sure, you can do that. If you're doing a literature review, it's going to be a little bit different, but you're still going to include most of that same data. And there's going to be a discussion and your take-home message, all of that. Actually, that is not true. I did do for APGO-CREOG, which is the Association of Professors of OBGYN. I did a leadership program through them, and I did a literature review on GDM, gestational diabetes, and I did make a poster for that. But I did not include that in this presentation, but that probably would have been a good one. So if somebody wants that, just pop me an email and I'll send you that and share that with you. If somebody's, doing a literature review, and then you can see what one of those looks like on a poster. I'd be happy to share that. I just don't have a case report poster, and I don't have a QI project poster. Most of mine are research projects. But those other ones are just as good. And I see lots of posters on those, especially QI projects at conferences. Did that answer your question, Mariana?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Don't be shy.
It's been really helpful. Thank you. Just to get the confidence to even try it, So,
Yeah. Honestly, I'll share that with you. My very first poster I ever made, I went to medical school later in life. So I was 40 when I started medical school, 44 when I started residency, 48 when I finished. And I did my first poster in residency. So that's about 22 years ago. And my very first poster, and I actually got a prize for it. Surprise, surprise. I don't have that one because that was before everything was on the computer. I have the actual physical copy of it up in my closet, but I don't have it. But I did get I think I got a third prize at a meeting for that. I was really
that's awesome.
So that motivated me, and I have learned a lot from that point. But actually, I've learned a ton just doing this talk for you guys. But it really prompted me to, all I had is that template. It prompted me to want to share what I know with other people because it is daunting. The first time you do anything is daunting. The first time you write an IRB to get approval to do a research project, I was terrified the first time, but I've probably done 20 of them now, and now it's kind of old hat. But anything you do for the first time is kind of scary. And yes,
absolutely. Yeah.
This would be really helpful for people to give them some guidance on how to do it.
It definitely is, because I was talking to someone the other day, and I was like, somehow along the way, we've become, I'm used to always leaning on professors and everything, and doing all that, and I'm like, oh, somehow the guards have changed, and now we're expected to. And I was like, oh, I've got to put in my own research project. I can't just I've been like, oh, can I join on your project? Yeah, it's very intimidating. Yeah, but it's helpful to break it down,
Yeah, it can be really intimidating. And that's why, when I do these projects, as a student, I never did anything with research. As a resident, I did it. I did this project. It was bench research, not anything that I would want to do, but it was already set up. And the professor, lovely man, but he did everything. I never wrote a thing for the IRB. I never wrote a thing for the publication that I got out of it. So I learned nothing. But so when I work with students and residents, I have them do things. They do half of it. I do the other half. I proof and, edit everything that they do, and they learn a lot. And so I encourage you to rope your students into things. And I will tell you, I have a bias. I would much rather work with a student any day than a resident. I love the residents, but they are way too busy. Their time is taken up, and the students are trying to prove something, and they are phenomenal to work with. They're really phenomenal.
And it's a great skill to get at that time, So it's a great skill to get at that time. So then when you finish your residency as well, you can start doing it, more. So Yeah, very helpful, hasn't it been? Yeah.
Good. I'm so
Um,
glad.
okay, well, thank you very much.
You are so welcome. Any other questions? I'm going to just take down I'm going to stop share so I can see faces and see if anybody has any questions. It's really exciting to see so many people on this meeting.
Thanks, Elaine.
You're so welcome. Yeah, if anybody wants the slides, just email me and I'll be happy to share them with you. And if I can help in any way, I would be happy to do that. I really would be happy to do that. And
Thank
just be
you.
creative, you know, the sky's the limit. You have to be very scientific when when you're writing up a publication, but you can be creative, but still have all the data in there, or the key points of the data. And not too many words.